Welcome to Gentle Prenatal Yoga Flow. I'm Lotus Light. I am a certified yoga instructor. All the moves I guide are just suggestions. Feel free to listen to and respect one's own body and needs for breathing. Optional props for this class may include a yoga mat, some pillows, a blanket and/or a bolster. And at any point during this class, feel free to come back to seated or child's pose if needed. Whatever feels comfortable for your body today. And when one feels ready, feel free to join me in seated on your mat in a comfortable position. Feel free to sit on a blanket or a pillow in the middle of the mat. And once ready, I invite you to feel the sit bones ground down. And releasing exhales down to the sit bones. Breathing. I invite you to inhale into the low belly and exhale back to the root. On the next inhale, I invite you to inhale into the upper belly and then exhale back to the root. And on the next breath, I invite you to inhale into the heart and exhale, release. And here I invite you to bring the right hand to the low belly, inhaling into the low belly and exhaling back to the root. And then I invite you to bring the left hand to the upper belly, inhaling into the upper belly and exhaling into the low belly. And then I invite you to bring the left hand to the heart. And on the next breath, I invite you to inhale into the heart and exhaling back to the low belly. And here I invite you to inhale love for yourself into the heart space. And exhale love for baby. Inhaling into the heart. Exhaling back to the root, releasing the hands back to the knees. So here I invite you to do a neck stretch. Bringing the left ear to the left shoulder. Inhale. Exhale, tuck and roll to the other side. Continuing like this if that feels appropriate. Rolling from one side to the other. Breathing. And I invite you to come back to center. And here I invite one to come into a lateral stretch. I invite one to bring the left hand down near the left hip, keeping a slight bend in that elbow. Inhaling the right hand over for a lateral stretch. Then I invite you to do this on the other side, so bringing the right hand down near the right hip, slight bend in the elbow, lifting the left arm overhead to stretch. Feel free to continue like this, going from side to side if that feels appropriate for your body today. Breathing deeply. Maybe one more time. And feel free to come back to center. So here I invite you to gently come to tabletop, nice and slowly. And here I'm bringing my hands underneath my shoulders and my knees underneath the hips onto the mat. Feel free to explore some length in the spine in this position if you can. So here I'm beginning to move into some cat-cows. So I invite you to join me with some curiosity. Just noticing how the body feels today. Dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. Exhale, round and curving the spine slightly. Flowing like this for a few breaths if you can. And then I'm coming back to center. And here I invite us to do some side stretches from this tabletop position. So here I invite you to look over the left shoulder towards the left foot. Coming back to center. Exhale, looking over the right shoulder towards the right foot. Inhaling, coming back to center. Flowing like this with your breath, if that feels appropriate for your body today. And then I invite you to come back to center. So here if you have a pillow or a blanket or a bolster, I invite you to bring that in between the hands. So from here I invite one to bring the knees out wide, toes to touch, and trying to bring the forehead towards the bolster or the pillow or the blanket, and relax the forehead down. And just remember that this pose is available throughout the class if needed, or coming back to an easy seated position. And if you were in child's pose, feel free to now come back to tabletop. For added support underneath the knees, feel free to put a blanket or a pillow underneath the knees. And I invite you to gently bring the left foot forward to set up for low lunge. And if you can, feel free to bring the hands to the left knee. Feel free to try the hands at the hips, maybe leaning in towards the front knee and coming back to center. Another option is the hands at the belly, or if you're feeling stable, feel free to cactus the arms out. So feel free to bring the hands to the hips, optional hands to belly, or cactus the arms out to shoulder height, and slowly making way to come back, gently bringing the hands down to frame that foot, gently coming back to tabletop. And if it's available for you today, I invite you to bring the right foot forward, setting up for low lunge here. And then I invite you to bring the hands to the right knee, and once again finding your stability in the pose, either with the hands on the hips. Feel free to shift the weight forward gently, and then shift the weight back, bringing the hands to the belly, or cactus the arms out to shoulder height. Feel free to flow with this pose and find what feels appropriate. And feel free to remove the pillow. And then I invite one to make their way back to tabletop. And from here, I invite you to bring the knees closer together and slowly bringing the hips down to one side to come to mermaid. So here I'm going to show the demo for the next move, half saddle pose, or half reclining hero's pose, Upta Ardha Virasana. So from mermaid, bringing the hands down, and here if you feel like you need a little bit more space to bend forward, feel free to open the left knee out towards the left slightly. Feel free to bring the palms down to frame the extended leg. Feel free to bring the palms down to frame the extended leg. Lengthening through the spine. So feel free to keep the belly lifted off of the ground during this stretch. Lengthening through the spine and gently walking the hands forward any amount. Finding some length. And exhale, lowering the chest any amount. So here I invite us to come to seated wide angle pose. And feel free to bring the palms down to the mat. And this might be enough for you, but if not, feel free to gently walk the hands forward a hand length or two until feeling the stretch. Lengthening through the spine. And exhale, lowering the chest any amount. So this is meant to be just a gentle stretch. So feel free to keep the belly lifted off of the ground during this stretch. And then I invite one to walk the hands gently back to center. Here I invite you to bring the hands slightly behind the body. To bring both legs out in front. And then coming to that half saddle pose on the other side. So bending the right knee out to the right. Keeping a slight bend in the extended leg. And feel free to adjust that right knee as needed. So once again, feel free to walk the hands forward gently, lengthening through the spine, and exhale, leaning the chest forward. Feel free to continue like this until you find a nice stretch. Trying to keep the belly lifted off of the ground. Seeing if you can find sensation in this pose and breathe. And then I invite one to bring both hands back towards the hips. Bringing both legs out long, almost like a staff pose. And here I invite one to rotate the ankles. So here I'm pointing the toes forward, and then I'm bringing both feet out towards the sides, and then back to flexion. And doing that again, feel free to join in. Feel free to alternate like this, pressing on the gas and then the brake, maybe alternating. Maybe doing a few circles, alternating here. And coming back to center. And here I'm bringing my hands gently to one side to come back to mermaid. And setting up for an easy seated position. And if you need to, feel free to come sit on a pillow for this. So here I invite us to do some wrist and forearm stretches. The first wrist stretch is infinity symbols with each hand. Feel free to join me. Doing a little infinity symbol towards the midline and then out towards the sides, same time. One can lower the hands down. Feel free to watch for the next demo. It's a forearm stretch. Feel free to join me. So for this stretch, fingertips are up. The other hand can gently pull the fingers back towards the body, and then fingertips can go down, and then once again the other hand can pull the fingers back towards the body. Feel free to do the other arm. Using the fingertips to help stretch the hands and the wrists. One can lower the hands down. So I can show the demo for the next move, which is an Anjali infinity with the fingertips. And then I invite one to bring the hands into Anjali mudra in front of the heart. And then I invite one to rotate the hands forward. And doing a little infinity symbol here. Stretching the fingers and the wrists. And then I invite one to wiggle the fingers, jazz hands here. And then bringing the hands back down towards the knees. Feel free to watch for the demo of setting up the props for the final resting pose of this class, Supta Baddha Konasana. Option 1, most supported. I'm setting up some large pillows towards the back of the mat. I'm setting these up to help elevate the chest and the head. And then I'm going to set up 2 pillows, one on each side of the mat, towards the middle or the front to help support the knees in this pose. Option 2, simple bolster, blanket, or pillows at the back of the mat, and 2 pillows on the sides of the middle of the mat. Or option 3, just a simple bolster, blanket, or pillows at the back of the mat. So here I invite you to set up your little Supta Baddha Konasana nest in whatever way that you would like. And whenever you feel ready, I invite you to recline onto your props if you have them. Bringing the soles of the feet together, and then opening the knees out towards the sides or the pillows to support. And from here, I invite one to bring one hand to the belly and one hand to the heart, to gently relax into this pose. And then I invite one to close the eyes and breathe. And here I invite you to bring some compassion to yourself and for your body in this process. Feel free to breathe deeply. And here I invite you to bring some love to your heart. And bring some love to your baby. Feel free to stay here as long as you would like. But if you would like to join me for the end of this session, I invite you to take another deep inhale and exhale into this pose before gently coming back to seated. And remove any of the props that you need to. Feel free to sit on a pillow. And if you're seated with me, I invite you to come back to that neck stretch that we did at the beginning of class. Slowly bringing the left ear to the left shoulder. Exhale, tucking and rolling towards the right. Inhaling and exhale, tuck and roll. And maybe just one more time like that. I invite you to bring the hands to Anjali Mudra in front of the heart. And here I invite you to breathe deeply into the heart. And I invite you to thank yourself for joining this gentle prenatal yoga flow today. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.